Can I have your first and your last name to begin?
Yeah, my name is Matt Hamilton.
Can you spell them for the record?
Matthehamilton.
Excellent. And your position at Collin College?
I'm a professor of history at the McKinney campus.
Excellent. So, talking about dual credit success, talk a little bit about traits that you see in students who succeed.
Well, there are no specific traits, I think. There's a few things that are common, but I've had students that are heavily involved with extracurricular activities do well. I've had students that are heavily involved and not do well. Ultimately, I think what it comes down to with dual credit is just the willingness to put in the work. It's going to be one of the hardest courses they've ever taken just because of the rigor of it. And it really then depends on the student if they're ready for that level of work. And the students I've seen do well, they might struggle with that at the beginning, but by the end of the first semester or by the middle of the semester, either they've risen to that level or they haven't. So generally a willingness to work hard and adapt is the traits I usually see in students that do well.
Yes, definitely. And so what are some common mistakes or habits that you see from students who might not succeed?
Assuming the course is going to be like their high school courses, even if they're taking AP courses, it's not. A lot of students will go into a college course thinking it's going to be like their AP. It's not. It's much more rigorous, so that's a common mistake. Another common mistake I see is just students not willing to make a connection with the professor. If they have questions, not reaching out to the professor. If they have things that need clarifying information, not reaching out to the professor and just assuming they know it. And then it translates to poor exam and poor quiz grade, poor assessment grades. And so that's one thing I think students that take dual credit need to keep in mind is the professors are there for your success. So get to know them and talk to them. They can help you.
How do you reach out to students who may not reach out to you?
If I have students that are struggling, I'll typically email them first. Usually, though, if I have a small class, I'll just ask them to stick around after class and just talk to them one-on-one. 9 times out of 10, it's just a student just doesn't quite understand or nobody's really gotten down on their level and explained to them what the course entails. I do that on day one, but it's day one. It's brand new. They're all a little, camera shy. And sometimes it doesn't sink in. So some of the strategies I use is try to meet with them one-on-one and get down on their level.
Can you speak one difference specifically between a college and a high school course that a student should prepare for?
Where do you start? I think the biggest difference is rigor. I don't want to throw high school education under the bus in Texas right now, but I will. It's just not up to par. Students that do well in high school courses, no matter what the high school is, can sometimes struggle in a dual credit course because it's a college course and the rigor is it's at a whole nother level that they're used to in high school. That's the biggest difference is the level of rigor.
So on that note, what adjustments would you recommend for a student to get onto that level?
Be ready to listen to your professor in terms of strategies that have worked, that they've seen, that they're talking to students about how to be successful. Be willing to listen to that, employ what the professor is guiding you for. Some other strategies, I think, one thing I always do recommend is, I know the high schools provide laptops, but if they don't have a laptop, to invest in a laptop because a lot of work can be done. A lot of work for dual credit courses are done through Canvas. You'll submit assignments through Canvas. But more importantly, you'll be able to take notes through any applications on the laptop. But it's a resource, I think, that every college student should have, especially dual credit if they don't. It'll really help with taking notes, organizing notes, submitting assignments, things like that, so you don't have to rely on high school's computers or your home computers. Aside from that, the biggest piece of advice I would give for dual credit students is just be ready to work. A lot of this course is going to be harder than anything they've ever faced before, and a lot of the responsibility is solely on the student. And so it's important for students to get up to that level as fast as possible. And that goes back to talking to professors during the course and throughout the course so that they make sure they stay on that level.
Someone who might be thinking about, I know this is probably not for the student who might already be in the program, someone who might be thinking about, should I apply for dual credit? Should I do it? I feel like I'm not gonna have a social life if I do, you know, I'm gonna miss time with my family. It's gonna be all just work, 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 work. Can you speak on that behalf?
Yeah, it's not like that at all. I generally tell my students that for every hour they're in class, they should devote an hour outside of class every week. And so if you're in class for 3 hours a week, then just devote at least 3 hours outside of class, and that's only 6 hours a week. That's plenty of time for you to still stay involved with extracurricular activities, still be involved in anything you want. It's not going to eat up your entire life, but it will require more effort and more responsibility to be successful in a college course than just a traditional high school course or even an AP course.
Definitely. So my last question to you, the word discipline always comes into mind after talking about that. It's kind of thrown around, people use it for a lot of things. What does discipline mean to you, and how would you explain that to a student?
Well, on the first day of my class, maybe this speaks to what you're asking, but I try to tell the students that my class, there's 3 keys to success, and it goes to discipline, really. First is just being in class. And my dad always used to say showing up was 90% of success. I always used to laugh at him, but he was right. So I tell my students just being simply in the room and being engaged is first key to success, and that requires some discipline. Now I know at the high school they're supposed to be there, but things get in the way. And I don't want my courses to disrupt students from experiencing high school and all of their curricular activities. But if you do miss a class, you need to be disciplined enough to get any content you missed. The second thing I tell students to be successful in my course is when you are in class, to be disciplined enough to be engaged, put the phones down, close your computer if it's a distraction, pay attention, be engaged, and get something out of every single class. Because I expect my students to learn. Most college professors do. I expect them to be engaged, and that requires a bit of discipline on their part. And then the third key to success is what they do outside of class. How much time do they give to the class outside? And that's where I really think it comes down to discipline, the self-discipline. They have to do it themselves, because I'm not going to be there like some of their high school teachers prodding them to do things. You either do it or you don't. And so discipline, if you're going to use that word, yeah, it's very, very important when it comes to dual credit. But I'll say that extends to all of our students at Collin College. It's not just dual credit. That's all of them.
How would you say Collin College does as a whole to prepare these students for dual credit courses?
The college, I think, does a great job. The high school is not so much. The college has devoted in the last few years a lot of resources I've seen to helping students, not only recruiting students, but helping them in classrooms in terms of technological resources, in terms of ensuring we get a lot of full-time faculty teaching dual credit, which I think is very important. And then we have a lot of resources once they're in dual credit in terms of any questions they may have about process moving forward, tutoring resources we may have. I think the college does a great job with that. I think the high schools could pick up the effort.
Definitely. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
Do you guys have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, Matt, could you speak to the importance of students learning and knowing the syllabus for each of their classes?
Sure. Good?
Yeah.
All right. So the syllabus, I describe it to students as this is our roadmap. This is everything you'd want to know about the course. And generally, professors on the first day will go through the whole syllabus. But like I said, students get a little, it's all very new, it's very exciting, so they're not really paying much attention sometimes as you go through the syllabus. But the syllabus really is, I think, fundamental to every single college course. It's going to outline everything a student would need to know in terms of how to contact your professor, the course policies on extra credit, due dates, grading period, how long turnaround on grading, entire course schedule should be in, as well as institutional policies. And the syllabus, especially for a first-time college student in their first ever class, is something I strongly suggest not only college professors going through on day one, but the students going through it as well. Go through it with their parents, go through it by themselves, but they need to go through it so they have a clear understanding of how to conceptualize the course, but more importantly, the course policy, so that we don't get to a point where something's happened and we can't do anything because it's already happened, rather than knowing the policies before something's happened. So.
Anything else? We're good?
Yep.
All right, Professor Hamilton, we really appreciate it, sir.